So from Dandasana, we release the chin to move into Paschimottanasana. Paschimottanasana was originally taught in 4 parts, A, B, C, D. So A, catch the toes, B, catch the outsides of the feet, C, catch over the toes, and D, catch the wrists. We've shortened it conventionally. The convention right now is to just do 2 of the versions, to do A and D, where you catch the wrist. So, and they're just basically deeper versions of each other. So if you have really tight hamstrings, then maybe you do want to do all 4. And that's just totally up to you, what you have time for, what your intention is in the practice. Do you really want to work on lengthening the hamstrings? I mean, you have a lot of opportunities in the primary series to lengthen the hamstrings. Maybe this is a good, just like symmetrical opportunity to do that. So I leave it up to you. So for the first one, I want to just experiment with something. This isn't conventional, but I find it's really helped me to create the space that we want as we move into this forward fold. So that's bringing the arms over your head and coming with wrapping the shoulder blades around towards the front. So that means the pinkies are moving towards each other and the elbows are moving towards each other. We want this position because as we inhale and we reach up through the pinkies, that's going to help us to lift the rib cage away from the hips. So as you keep dropping through the tailbone and dropping through the sit bones, draw the lower belly and lift up through the pinkies and through the rib cage. And then you're going to, as you fold forward, keep reaching up. So make the forward a function of reaching up. So you're reaching up and forward, drawing the lower belly and trying to create as much space as possible through the torso, so you feel like you're lifting the rib cage and it's moving away from the hips. And then once you find your limit here of hamstring flexibility, then just let the hands settle. You can either catch the big toes like an A, or you can have the fingertips on the floor alongside the legs. And I find a benefit to both ways. And then once you're there, again, inhale, draw the lower belly in, and then exhale, fold forward and keep that length going. So keep reaching the rib cage away from the hips, keep reaching the heart forward, but at the same time now you're relaxing the muscles along the back. And that's what's gonna get you into the forward fold. So you have a little bit of a rounding through the spine and you wanna keep the legs strong. So just like in Dandasana, pressing the heels down, reaching out through the base of the big toe and engaging the legs. So you're lifting the kneecaps towards the hips. And then once you're in the forward folds, keep the feet together and you can keep moving through that same vinyasa we used to move into the posture. So inhaling, drawing the lower belly in, and you can even lift out of it a little bit to lift the rib cage away from the hips and reach the heart forward. And then exhale, settle into this, relax the back muscles, but keep reaching the heart forward and the crown of the head forward. So here sometimes the giristi is to look at the toes, but if you're in it deep enough, then maybe looking at the toes might be like straining the neck a little bit. And that can even like block the flow of the breath. So if you're in it deep, and gazing towards the shins feels better for the neck, and it also feels better to keep the energy moving out through the crown of the head. Then pretend like your eyes are at the top of the head, and then that you can maintain the drishti like that. But if you're in it, you're not as deep into it, then maybe gazing at the toes is actually useful because it helps you direct the energy towards the toes, and it doesn't involve you going like this to the neck and closing and blocking that energy flow. So it just depends. Context is super important when we place rules like drishti, yeah? So decide for yourself what helps you to continue moving the energy along the spine and move deeper without creating a block or without creating any like strain somewhere. Another thing that is common here is to create strain in the shoulders. So we like pull on the toes or pull on the feet and then use like all of this arm strength to pull us in. And so this is a challenge that is, I think, ends up being really beneficial in the long term, and it also makes this posture move us from the inside instead of this like outside force. Relax the shoulders, relax the neck, and instead find that depth by keeping the legs strong and finding that hollowing through the front of the pelvis. So that drawing of the lower belly and initiating the action from there by drawing the lower belly in and then lifting that all the way out through the crown of the head, using that movement and those intentions of really drawing the lower belly in and moving from the pelvis, and using that to deepen us into the posture. That's going to make the posture like more sustainable, so like you're less likely to get injured, but it also maintains this intention of like moving from the inside out. So maybe on the outside it doesn't look like a lot is happening, but the inside is like so alive and so intelligent, yeah? And on that note, you want to try not to like rest the elbows on the floor. I think that actually like encourages us to like use the arms, because we're kind of, since our elbows are rested, like that becomes our foundation in the posture, instead of using the legs as the foundation, as what's grounding us and rooting us. The legs are strong. As soon as you place the elbows, the legs are like, oh, I don't have to do my job. The elbows are kind of supporting me. So in all of these forward folds, see if you can lift the elbows, find the strength through the legs instead, and then from there, from that foundation, from that stability of the legs, we can really find that space and movement from the pelvis all along the spine into the forward fold. So that's one. And the second one that's conventionally used is catching the wrist. And I like to use this position of catching the wrist so now my forearms are on the sides of my feet. So I can really pull the sides of the feet back to reach the base of the big toe forward. So you get this action happening of the base of the big toes reaching forward. And what that does is that encourages a gentle inward spiral through the legs so that we don't come into this, splaying the feet out. We want to draw the feet towards each other, gently spiral them in, and then that's what allows us to find the space to release the lower back and release all the muscles along the spine to move into the forward fold. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the forward fold is like we're hinging at the hips. So just be careful that you're hinging at the hips. That's why I really like this exercise of like reaching forward and creating like a long spine so you get this action of folding forward. Yes, there's going to be a little bit rounding in the back because we're relaxing the back muscles, but we're primarily hinging at the hips. So just notice if you're like in a position like this, where you're like really rounding a lot in the back. Feel free to either bend the knees and then come into this version with the fingertips on the floor, or even catching the big toes. Or you can elevate the hips onto a blanket or a bolster. That has the same effect of trying to tilt the pelvis so that you can find a neutral pelvis, and then from that neutral pelvis, you can hinge at the hips a little bit more easily. So the vinyasa for this is after Dandasana, you release that. Inhale, catch the big toes, or hands on the floor. Exhale, fold forward, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, look up. Exhale there. Inhale, take the deeper grip. Exhale, fold forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Full rounds of breathing. Inhale, look up. Exhale fully. And then we move into a vinyasa. So we jump back, downward facing dog, jump through into the next posture. And again, I'll break down jumping back in another video.